Hello everyone, this is General Hand Grenade. Welcome to my war room in Prince George, British Columbia. In this video we're going to be talking about another Global War 1936 to 1945 expansion set. This one's called Fightin' Railways. Now this is a really simple one. It's one of the oldest ones that they have and an inexpensive one. Like you don't get much with it, but it's probably one of the best ones that they have. I just had some guys come here, Rank Carcass and my friend, he came here to play a game, and they say they use this one all the time, and they say it makes the game better. Like there's a couple of things in particular that this set does. You know, there's railways all around the board, but they don't go everywhere. So in this, with this set, you can make those railways go wherever you want, except for into the water, of course. And the other thing is that you can use your railways for your combat moves. Normally, railways are only for non-combat moves. So this changes the game mechanics and allows you to move or use the railways in your combat moves. So let's just take a look at what you get, and it's very simple, like I said. Very well worth getting though. So you only get 6 railway markers, 4 rail guns, and 10 rail markers. I'll show you how to use all that. First though, I want to show you what else you can do. Let's just go take a look at my computer here. I got that set up. So on the website here, this is in the marker section and the World War II technology. Okay, so you can go down there and look at this here. You can see there are a bunch of other things that you could get if you wanted to. So there you go. Like there's the armored train marker that I'm using. This is not part of the set though. You only get the armored train marker, but you could purchase yourself some of these. They sell these in, separately. So you could get artillery markers, you could get anti-aircraft markers, assault markers, flat markers. So what the assault one is you can bring in 1 extra infantry, and the flat one means you can bring in 1 extra mechanical piece, like whether that's a tank or artillery piece or whatever. Now this is just, it's like a rail gun, not quite though, it's an artillery piece, anti-aircraft, and I've got one of those. Excuse me, Rank Carcass brought me a few of those anti-aircraft. I guess he had a bunch of them. So I'll probably get myself a couple of them. Like I like those assault ones and I like the flat ones. I don't know about the artillery. I'll have to see, you know, like I haven't played with this set yet. But anyway, that's that. And then you wonder, well, how do you use those, right? What you can do, let's just get out of there. In the rules compendium, in the same place that you see the markers at the very bottom, there's rules compendium. So it tells you, like here's railways. You click on railways and skip all that other crap there. And then they've got the armored train, and like the cost is different in the fighting railways. The cost is different. But anyway, what I'm looking for, okay, how do you use the anti-aircraft, right? How do you use the artillery or railgun car? And then there's the assault car and the flat car. So the cost is 3 on the assault car. The cost is 5 on the flat car. And that's the one that allows you to move the extra guy in there, right? And so what else do I got on here? Oh yeah, that's about it. Okay, so let's just close that up. Anyway, just so you know, you can add to this set. So you can kind of customize it yourself. You can make up your own rules that go along with it and just use these as kind of a guide, right? So let's just open this up. And there's only 2 pages. Like look at here. There's just these 2 pages here. But it adds a lot to the game though. It's not like some fancy set where you get some fancy little units and everything. It's just a kick-ass little set here. So your railway track markers. Now that's these things here. There. So what you can do is you can put it on the border between 2 territories to make that to connect them. Like here, you see like this territory's got a railway into it. This territory's got a railway in it, but they don't connect to each other. Like you'd have to go one 2, 3, to get to that territory. So you could put this rail marker on here, and it costs 4 IPP to buy one of these rail markers, so you could connect these two territories. Now this one here you probably wouldn't connect, right? But the probably the biggest reason why you would want to is because, of course, your railways are they're your supply paths, right? So like you could create a supply path, for instance, between Russia and the communist Chinese. Like you could build a railway marker there, a railway there, and then a railway into there. There, now you've got a supply path. Now you can send money to those guys, or you can send units. You'd probably send units, right, into the communist Chinese. So they can put up a much better fight against the Japanese. The problem is that I was saying it was 4 IPP to put markers down, but when you're crossing a mountain border, and all 3 of these would be mountain borders because this is a mountain territory, even though this isn't. This is a mountain territory, so that's going to cost 8. There's another mountain here, so that's going to cost 8, and then down there, both mountains, so that's going to cost 8. So it would cost you $24 to in order to make your way through there. But there's other places too, though, that you could go. Like let's take a look down here in Africa for a second. Like there's another place that would be pretty handy to do. Like here, you've got your factory down in South Africa, right? But you don't have a rail line that goes all the way up to Cairo there. I'm speaking specifically of the British. But if you put a railway marker here for 4, these are not mountains, so they only cost 4, and a railway here for 4, so that's only 8. Now you've created a path from here all the way up to here, right? Or maybe you want to connect North Africa. So the railway stops here, like there's a railway that goes up here, right? And there's a railway that stops here, so you could put a marker here for 4 and a marker here for 4. Now you've gone all the way from Morocco over there, all the way, well, up to Europe, really. Like you could go all the way from Europe all the way down over to Morocco over here on the railway. So there you go, connecting and creating your own railways. I mean, with just 2 markers, you know what I mean? 2 tiny little markers, you can make a big change in the game. Customizing the board basically is what you're doing, right? Now you can also damage rails. So what you would do in that case is you would take your damage markers, right? And you can only damage it up to the rail capacity. Like here in Russia, for instance, the rail capacity is 2, right? So if you wanted to damage this line right here, then you could only do 2 damage. So what you would do is you would put that down. Like I use the orange or the black tokens for damage. So that's 2, and then you put a railway marker on top of it, and you could say, okay, the railway in this territory is damaged by 2. How you would do that is by strategic bombing that, kind of like you do with a factory. Now there's no anti-aircraft guns that are inherent in a railway like there is in other facilities. Here, let me just grab an anti-aircraft gun. Like your factories and your air bases and naval bases, they all have anti-aircraft guns built in. Well, railways don't. I mean, this is just a rail line going through the country, right? But if you happen to have an anti-aircraft gun there, then you could shoot at any plane that was trying to bomb your railway. Now you can use these tokens, or like customizing the game, you can get yourself some damaged rail tokens. So it says damaged rail on it. It's got a little broken railway, and they stand out better. Like that would stand out for you right there. So there you go. Another way to customize your little set here. Now, those are the railway markers. Like I said, 4 to connect any territory, and 8 to connect territories that have mountains or over a mountain border. Now, the next thing is railway guns, and that's this gray thing here that we were looking at. Okay, so what those are good for, especially, is for assaulting cities. Like let's say the Germans have this territory right here, okay, and they put a railway gun in here. And railway guns have to move on the rail lines, and they can move 3 spaces, okay? but they have to move on the rail lines. So you couldn't, for instance, move a railway gun out here. There's no railway lines here. You'd have to build rail lines in order to do that. So there's your German railgun. Now, what they can do is they can bombard a city from a territory away. So you wouldn't actually have to move this marker into the city, the railway gun. You could bombard the railway from out here. And also you can buy railway gun units, I think. I know there's a French one. I think there might be a German one too. It's a shame you couldn't get them for all the nations. But anyway, instead of using markers, you could do that if you wanted to. But these markers are good enough that they'll do the same thing. So what you'll do is you will carpet bomb, for lack of a better term, this territory in here. You can only do it to a city, I think. So you roll at 5. So 5 or less, you can destroy a unit that is in this city. So you roll a 4, you take this dude out here, because it would be up to them to decide what the casualty was, right? The other thing you could do instead of doing that, and this is from adjacent as well, you could strategically bomb any facility in here. Like I put these chips on already, but you could do 1 to 3 damage on a factory or an air base or a naval base. Now it doesn't tell you exactly how to do that. What I'm assuming is that you'll take your 12-sided dice and you can do 1 to 3 damage on it. So I'm guessing that you take your 12-sided dice and you roll it and you try to get a 1, 2, or 3. And if you get a 1, 2, or 3, then that's how much damage that you get on that. And if you don't hit those numbers, like if you hit a 4 to 12, then you miss the factory. It's not like with your bombers where you're going over and you just roll in the dice and you get it, yay, you know. You gotta try to target that from a ways away with your rail gun, so there's a chance that you missing that, right? So roll your dice and see if you can hit a 1 to 3. And if you hit a 3, that's $3 damage on that factory. Okay, so that's the rail guns. That's why you're using it as a siege gun. If you're using it as normal artillery, like you're going into a space that has the German, let's say this is here, and you're coming in and you're the Russians and you come in with your dude and you bring a railway gun in. Now this is a Russian rail gun, right? Then he works like an artillery in that he's going to get first strike. One thing he does not do, he doesn't upscale the infantry. So the infantry is not going to get +1 with a railgun like it does with normal artillery, but it does get first strike capability like they do with normal artillery. And so you would be going with the railgun and with the infantry at a normal shot, right, with the infantry. And that would be at 5. So the railgun is, it attacks at 5, it defends at 2. So if it's in a territory and the German came in there to attack it, then it would defend it 2. So it's not as good on defense, but it's better on attack. It moves 3, like I said earlier, and it costs 5. So 5 IPP to purchase one of these. Okay, so let's move on to the armored train now. And that's these things here. So what do these things do? Let's just take this back out of here. Okay, so the armored train is something that you can use to bring your units in on an attack move, or on a combat move, rather than having to wait until non-combat move. Now, they were constructed by many nations in the late 1800s and early 1900s. In World War II, they were used to bring men and equipment directly into the front lines. So they had anti-aircraft guns on them, they had tank turrets, they had artillery machine guns. Germany, Russia, Britain, and Poland, they had them. Japan also used them in Manchuria. So how do you use these things? Now they move along the railway lines, like I told you before. They can move 8 spaces. They cost 10 IPP, and you use them to rail one land unit, I guess you could say. I was going to say dude, but it could be a tank, could be anything, right? But they're only 8 spaces, though. It's not unlimited like your non-combat movement, where you can go the entire length of the rail line. But when you do that though, it has to start and end in the same zone. So let's take look at an example here. So there's that truck over here now. Let's just say this is a German territory. Let's say you want to bring this tank up there. Okay. So what you for one thing, the armored train, when your turn began, the armored train and the unit that you're going to move have to start in the same zone. Like you couldn't have the train here, have the tank move here, and then start railing it. They both have to start in the same zone. Now he can go up to 8 spaces, right? So let's go 1. Let's go this way. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we can go right into there on the train. And then you got these guys that can come in here too because they can all move that far, right? So now you're going to go in and you're going to attack this guy. Now the train doesn't shoot. It has no attack or defense capability, so it's not going to shoot. What it's doing, it's bringing that train from a long ways away. And it only brings 1 unit. Except if you were to use those other markers like I showed you that are on the website there. And you know, like you can create your own rules around them or whatever, but the rules that they give you there in the rules compendium are just a suggestion. And I think it's a good idea. Like if you spend money on another rail car, then you can put a dude on there, or spend more money on the flat rail car, you could put another tank on there, right? I think that's kind of cool. So maximum of 8 zones. I'm just looking at it here. Okay, now how you kill a train? Let's just grab a different marker here. So how you kill a train is basically you take over the territory that's there. Okay, so let's say this guy came in, the German came in, and he attacked this guy here and wiped him out. So now it's German territory. Okay, so that Russian train is dead now because the only units that are in this zone are German units. There's no Russian units there anymore. So the train dies. That's one way. The only other way would be to, let me see here. It can be eliminated by a player using target selection or carpet bombing. So you could come in with a strategic bomber and carpet bomb this zone instead with that train in it. And if you do hit, like you're carpet bombing at 2 or less, you roll a 2, bang, that train is dead. That's one way. Or the other way is if there was, say, a bunch of units in here and you brought a tactical bomber in and you happen to hit, what is it, 1 to 3 for a tactical bomber, then instead of, you've got target selection, now you can choose the armored train. But normally that wouldn't happen. Like if you say you hit him, but you rolled a 4, so you lose the dude. Now you can't. You can't just keep rolling until you hit a 1 to 3. Like that attack is over. This guy's got to leave, and because there's no German units in here, the train survives. But if you happen to hit him when you're attacking, like if there were other German units in there. Let's say you were like this, and then you got target selection, or you didn't get target selection, but only this guy hit. So you take that out. Well, now the train's dead, even though this guy flies away. I think you get what I mean anyway. You can only hit a train on target selection or carpet bombing, or if you eliminate all the other units in that territory, and there's the opposing units left. In other words, you conquer the territory. So I think that's just about it. Yeah, that's pretty much it. So like I said, using the rail markers is really going to kind of change the map. Like you especially if you're somebody who likes to use Lend-Lease, and I've still got to acquire that skill. I know how to do it and everything, but it's not in my mindset to do a lot of Lend-Lease just yet. I'm still switching myself over from Axis and Allies where there is no Lend-Lease. So as I become a better player at this game, I'm going to want to be looking for more routes where I can Lend-Lease. And playing with these rules is going to help me do that because I can create routes. The armored trains, that's going to be great because you can actually, especially if you're the Russians or the Germans. Like the other places there, maybe not so much. But when either the Russians or the Germans, like they're their factories are a long ways away from where they want to be. I know from playing this game that, you know, like it's nice to be able to non-combat your troops up to the front lines, but you can't use them, right? You non-combat move them up, and then the Russians attack, and then they non-combat move them. You know, so it'd be nice to be able to bring those units in on combat, or bring the units in here on combat if you've got the rail line secured. That'll change the game big time in certain places, like not everywhere, but places like that. I think it opens the game up a bit. I think it makes the game a little more aggressive, and there's nothing wrong with having an aggressive game, that's for sure. I think there's more excitement when you do it that way. So even though there's no fancy units involved with this set, like all it is just those markers there, even though there's no fancy units, it might be their best one. If not, then very close, because it's going to improve the game big time. I think that once I play, I haven't used these rules yet because I was trying to get used to the normal rules, but I think that once I try this, and probably will be the next game that I play, that I'm never going to want to play without these rules again. Just the ability to customize the railways and the ability to use the railways to attack, that's going to be something that I think you can get used to. Anyway, that's all I got for you on this video, so take care everyone. General Hand Grenade out.